Hey everyone. I have a theory regarding hookup culture. And that's what I'd like to share in today's video because, in case you haven't noticed, it seems like society is very much pushing this hookup culture agenda. And by society, I of course mean just the average person and the way that they view hookup culture as a liberating thing, something that gives them freedom, the freedom to, sleep with whoever they please and have their fun. It's basically a way of having your cake and eating it too, because many people like to frame hookup culture as this kind of playground environment where there are no consequences to your actions, where you can mess around and nothing bad is going to happen because, there are ways of protecting yourself. You can wear condoms for the men, and then the women can take plan B, and so on and so forth. So there are ways to avoid any issues. And as a last resort, women can also get abortions. So yeah, no consequences to our actions whatsoever, right? So it's all fun and games. Now, I'm not trying to be like pessimistic or anything here, but I do believe that hookup culture is not quite what people are making it out to be. And my theory surrounding hookup culture is that I believe most people actually desire an emotional connection with someone, not just a purely physical connection. So I believe hookup culture is causing people to lie to themselves, because everywhere we look, there are all these influences telling us that hookup culture will free us and make us happy. It'll make life more enjoyable. So we look at that and we think, after hearing this enough times, it's got to be true, right? It has to be true. So then you get people buying into it and going out there and sleeping around willy-nilly and never looking for commitment and having all sorts of fun. Or so they think, or so they say even. But my theory is that this isn't actually the case for most people who engage in hookup culture. I believe most of them actually aren't feeling as freed and enjoying themselves as much as they let on. I could be wrong here. I could definitely be wrong. This is just my own theory based on what I know about human psychology. But I really do believe most people are actually lying to themselves if they engage in hookup culture and feel better off for it. Because us human beings, sure, we are animals, we get that, right? And there are going to be people who are more kind of fit for polygamy. So this video is not targeted towards them because they're the outliers. I'm not at all saying that polygamous people don't enjoy hookup culture. They probably do, but they're different from most people. And I wager most people are going to lean more towards monogamy than polygamy. So for those of you who are polygamists, you might as well shut off the rest of this video. It's not for you, unless you want to learn about the people who do believe in monogamy and the people who practice it, because that's what I'll be focusing on here. And I do believe that most people who are monogamous, they are not going to enjoy hookup culture, because there really is something powerful to having and building an emotional connection with someone. And heck, those of us who've had the pleasure of experiencing an emotional connection with someone, and then had, on top of that, the pleasure of having fun times with them in the bedroom, we all know that it heightens the experience. It makes it way more pleasurable and meaningful. So when you have one-night stands or one-off situations, or even friends with benefits situations where there isn't an emotional connection, it's not the same. It's not fulfilling. In fact, it can even leave us feeling hollow inside, because sometimes we'll kind of acknowledge that there could be truth to it kind of being like masturbating but with extra steps, because we're basically just getting our own rocks off but using somebody else's body to do it. Because if there isn't an emotional connection there, it's not going to be super intimate. Like, it is an intimate act in general because you're opening up your body to someone else, but there won't be that emotional intimacy, that aspect of looking at that person, and for some people even being in love with them, or for others at least knowing them, connecting with them deeply enough that when you look in their eyes, you can see them better. You can see them as an entire human being, and you like them. you like what you see. When you have one night stands or friends with benefits that lack that emotional connection, it's more like you're just looking at that other person and enjoying what you see physically. You like their body, they're attractive to you, and that's it. There's no emotional connection. That is not nearly as fulfilling as those moments where we do have that emotional connection with the other person. So I truly do believe that most people who engage in hookup culture and are monogamous actually don't enjoy hookup culture as much as they let on. I believe a lot of people are either lying to themselves or, well, this is still another form of lying to yourself, but they're basically acting like they enjoyed it because they feel maybe some guilt over it, maybe some shame, but also it could just be a way of masking up their insecurities because they've been told that, hey, this will make you happier, and they want to be happier, so they try it out, but then it doesn't actually make them feel happier, and they don't want to, admit that, hey, this was wrong, we were lied to about this. So instead, the way they try to cover it up is by saying, hey, it was great, like I had a good time. They don't want to admit the truth that it actually wasn't all that pleasant an experience. And some people straight up use hookup culture as a way to avoid their own not so great feelings about themselves, those deep insecurities, like people who use physical intimacy as a way to kind of feel loved and wanted and desired by someone else because maybe they didn't have both of their parents growing up. And especially in the case of not having a father figure in your life, that really messes people up. And society ought to admit the truth there and stop acting like this is the most horrible thing in the world. It is bad, but we shouldn't shame people for it. Like, they didn't choose for their father to not be in the picture, right? Like, there's no point in making fun of people for this. They didn't pick that. And yet, of course, the internet's always attacking people over it, calling men, oftentimes it's women, they say those women have daddy issues. Even if that's true, I don't see any benefit in shaming people over it because they didn't choose that. They didn't choose to be born by those parents, and they didn't choose for their father to then jump ship and get out of the picture. And also, daddy issues can affect men as well. It's not just women. That's another thing that's kind of annoying to see. Like, people act like certain psychological phenomena only affect one sex over the other. It's not true. Quite often they affect all sexes. So men can get daddy issues just as much as women, and it affects them in the same way. They're far more likely to be players and that sort of thing. They won't be able to have long-term relationships because their ability to pair bond has been messed up. So it affects both sexes. But my whole point here is physical intimacy isn't real love. It's not like real desire. Like, they're not the same thing. So using hookup culture to escape insecurities is yet again not fulfilling because it doesn't fix the issue, nor does it even really feel good. Like, I'm sure a lot of the people who use hookups to feel better about themselves, to try to mask their insecurities, don't actually come out of that situation feeling better about themselves. Heck, they may even feel more hollow afterwards. It is not a solution to the problem. I would even say it's not even putting a band-aid on the problem whatsoever. It's more like just leaving that gaping wound just chilling there out in the open. In fact, you may even be making it worse. You may be throwing salt in the wound when you're trying to heal it. So it's unfortunate. I really wish society focused on teaching people to become better human beings over time, because it seems like there's a lot of degeneracy out there now. And hookup culture adds to that degeneracy because it makes people engage in these behaviors that don't really lead to long-term fulfillment and satisfaction and happiness, but it phrases those things, or frames them, should I say, as providing all of those characteristics. But it's not true. So now we're living in this world where society is basically encouraging people to go against their own nature, which will lead to a lot of unhappy people further down the road, because there are a lot of consequences to our behavior in the bedroom and the choices we make, especially those consistent choices. I mean, a good example of this is how good men often don't want to choose a woman who's had a ton of partners. And there are a lot of women out there who sleep around a lot, and usually I want to say they have some grasp on this concept, but maybe they're not consciously thinking of it all the time. But even if she ends up working on herself and becoming better over time, many men are going to look at her, the good men, and say, I don't know, seems risky because I don't know if you'll stay loyal to me. So they're going to be more willing to choose a different woman who hasn't had so many partners in the bedroom. And that means that that poor woman, it's her own choices really, but she just didn't understand the gravity of them. She's now going to go through life much tougher, should I say, than if she hadn't made those choices. But the problem here is that society isn't effectively communicating the gravity of this whole situation, the gravity of our choices in the bedroom. Because yeah, most of those women out there, they're not going to fully understand how these decisions could lead to them being lonely for the rest of their lives after they hit like 30 or 35. So it's just really unfortunate. And this does affect men as well. I can't single out women on that. Like, there are a lot of men who, as I said earlier, it affects their ability to pair bond, so they're not going to be able to have fulfilling long-term relationships either. So both sides are getting screwed, and society isn't doing anything about it. I mean, not to get conspiratorial, but it almost does make you wonder if there's something going on here, and this is like what certain institutions want because they benefit off of it. I mean, certainly like the condom industry and Planned Parenthood want this situation to continue inevitably because they profit off of it. But maybe even their higher ups but that's neither here nor there. But my whole point is, it just seems like society doesn't care about this. Either not enough people understand the truth here, or there are powerful institutions that do, and they're not taking the time to properly educate people. And it's basically just pointing us all towards a future where there will be a lot of unhappy and lonely people. And it's really unfortunate because it will have been their own choices that led them there, but they just didn't know any better. They weren't educated properly. So, I mean, at the end of the day, you could potentially blame them for their own choices, but I would say it goes beyond that, because why are we being enabled to do this? Why are we being influenced in this direction? Why are these the ideals that society is clinging to now? Whatever happened to praising loyalty and honesty and authenticity and being a good person over time? And whatever happened to holding people accountable for their choices enough that we're not like enabling bad behavior either? There's just a lot that is going wrong in society. So I just want to make this video to discuss this subject and just to hopefully, for any of you who view it, steer you in the right direction. I mean, very few people can engage in hookup culture and come out of it unscathed. And unless you've tremendously worked on yourself to the point you have like almost complete control of your psyche, I just don't believe many people can engage in this activity over a prolonged period of time and walk away from it without any psychological issues whatsoever. I do believe most people haven't hit that level of self-work to be able to navigate that well without therapy or something like that. So just for the most part, follow your heart, do what you know is right, and if it doesn't feel right, don't engage in it. It doesn't matter if all your friends are trying to peer pressure you into it. If your friends would jump off a cliff, I hope you wouldn't. And that's a very common thing that most people's parents would tell them, but it really is true. If your parents are going in the wrong, or if your friends are going the wrong direction in life, if they're all going to end up doing nothing with their lives and being unhappy further down the road, don't follow them. Don't let them pressure you into making horrible choices yourself. If you know better, then be better than them and get better friends who don't pressure you to do stupid crap. It's unfortunate. I mean, at the end of the day, we just have to hold ourselves accountable for our own actions and strive to be better. So hopefully that's what this video will help other people do. But otherwise, I hope it was entertaining. I hope you learned something here. I would love to hear you guys' thoughts on this, especially if you disagree. Please feel free to leave a comment down below and let me know your rationale. But just please promise you won't be lying to yourself if you're gonna say hookup culture is fine and it doesn't impact anyone. Just for the love of God, if you know the words you're saying is you lying to yourself, trying to convince me to make yourself feel better or convince other people to read your comment, don't even bother to leave that comment then. So what would you be doing? But yeah, I understand this isn't the internet. I can't see what you're saying face to face because I'm a pretty good judge of character and I would be able to tell when most people are lying to themselves. But on here, you could lie to me. I wouldn't be able to tell because there's no tone or anything behind your words. It's just text on a page. So yeah, but promise me you won't do that. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it interesting. If you like content like this, be sure to subscribe for more. Otherwise, the easiest way you can help me out is just to throw a like and a comment on the video for the algorithm. And I will see you guys in the next one. Arrivederci.